Good morning and welcome to my compost corner. So every garden needs a small working area and this is mine. So I bring all the rubbish from the garden down into this area to be dealt with. So as you can see, I've got a few logs down there on the floor, so I'll be cutting those up for firewood, and anything too small that I can't use I'll put through the incinerator next time I have a bonfire. But the main thing I use this area for is my compost. So as you can see on my compost heap here, I don't treat my compost terribly well. I do the pile it up method and ignore it, and what I put on there, because I don't have a lawn, is mostly either weeds or shrubby stuff. So with the shrubs, I do try and shred them down so they rot down a bit quicker, but I always end up with quite a lot of woody stuff in there. But it does seem to rot down eventually. It takes a little bit longer, but after about 6 to 8 months, you do end up with something that looks like this. Now that you wouldn't want to put on your garden, it doesn't look that great. But if you sieve that, you'll be amazed at how good it looks. So I usually start by putting it through this basket here. So that's got a 1-inch hole on the bottom there. So I just use that as a large sieve. And you end up with something that looks like this. So that, although it has still got quite large twigs in there, that makes a fantastic mulch. It's great to put around the bottom of your shrubs because it holds all the moisture in and it puts the nutrients back at the bottom of the shrubs. But I do realise that isn't always that helpful. So I also have this sieve here that I made up with a much smaller hole, and I just sieve the compost through there, and that's what I've got in these 2 bins here. And as you can see, that is a lot finer. That gets rid of all the small twigs. That is brilliant for potting stuff up. Now you do have the downside to homemade compost, which is it doesn't actually get hot enough to kill the weeds off. I could possibly turn that on a regular basis and that will introduce more air, but to be honest I'm too lazy. But the main thing is, it's got rid of the rubbish for me, it has rotted it all down, and although I could take this to the dump and get rid of it for free, that's taking the nutrients out the garden. So by doing it this way, it's keeping the nutrients in the garden and sort of just keeping everything healthy. So it's a little bit of effort, but it is worth it. The main problem I've got is the compost bin at the moment. So as you can see, it's traditional build with 3 pallets. Problem is it's gone rotten, so all of that is collapsed. That post there is snapped off from there. The whole of this has shifted, so as you can see, that's supposed to be a straight line across there. It's kind of at an angle now. So I've brought some stuff to replace this. Plan is to upgrade it a little bit, but for now I need to empty it. So that is what I'm going to start with. It's going to be a lot of digging, but I'm going to get that lot out. It'll be interesting to see what we find in there. Usually you find a few slow worms or toads in there, but it's been a bit cold and damp at the moment, so we'll see what we find. I didn't find much while I dug it out, but I've just found this frog, so I don't know if he's come in to find out what's going on or if he was in the compost bin and I've disturbed him. But I'm going to move him over to the pond so he's a little safer, because I don't want to stand on him. Well, that was quite a workout. It went a lot quicker than I was expecting. It only took me about 10 minutes to move that lot. Now I was disappointed that I didn't find much in the way of wildlife in there. I didn't find any slow worms or anything, but I did find regular worms, which is good because they'll be helping break it down. And also, all this white that you can see, that's actually mould spores, so that means that there's fungus in here that's breaking it down as well. So that is working well. Now obviously I could go further and dig that down further, but my plan is to remove this wooden structure and try and level this ground off. I do try and level it off every time I've replaced the compost bin. I think this is the 3rd time I've replaced it now. Obviously the ground over there is about 2 foot lower than over here, so I'm never going to get it completely flat, but if I can just raise it up slightly, it just means you're not falling down the hill quite so much. But yeah, so that's the next stage, is to remove all this wood from here and then level it all off. Right, well that's looking a bit better. So it's nice and open and ready for the new compost bin to go in place. Almost. So I've measured the new compost bin, and the new design that I've got is slightly bigger than the old one. So I do need a little bit more length here. Now I don't want to go this way any further because there's a line of blocks here that's quite nice to work up against. And I've also got this ash tree here which I don't want to damage in any way. So I'm going to put that up against it like it was before, and that should be absolutely fine. So I need to extend it this way. As you can see, the other end of the compost bin did tuck nicely in between these two willow trees here, and I know it has caused some rub marks, but they're willow trees. If you cut them down, they just regrow, which is why there's loads of them here. And to be honest, they are overgrown weeds. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to take this big one out here, then that means it can carry on across through here, up against this one like it was before. Yeah, so that's the next step. Cut that tree down. Right, well that's that tree dealt with, so I'm ready to start building back now. So I am going to change the design slightly because the old compost bin was built out of pallet wood, and although it is great to have the pallet wood because it is free, they are quite heavy and awkward to move. They don't last that long. For me, 2 to 3 years and they've rotted through. So I want something that's going to last longer. So I've thought about it and I'm going to try doing it out of metal. Now initially I had priced this up for doing it with welded wire mesh and angle iron and making something up myself. But I was actually out at the supermarket the other day and I found these panels, and they really want to get rid of them. Obviously people don't like the design because they're 75% off, and that actually made them cheaper than buying the metal to do it properly. So I'm going to give these a try, see how they go. So as you can see, I've got 2 panels here. I've just drilled through and put a bolt through. So the plan is to bolt a load of these panels together and make something out of that. So let's try and get some of these in. Right, well that's the panels in place, and I'm really pleased with how they look. They look so much better than the old wooden pallets. So it was a bit of a faff trying to get the nuts and bolts through. Obviously the holes didn't all line up, and it was a little difficult to reach them, because I could have done with a second pair of hands on the other side just holding that in place. But I've managed to get them all done, and they're all bolted together, so that's all nice and sturdy now. Now I'd love to say I can start filling that up with compost, but there's one more thing I need to do. At the moment, if I was to fill that with compost, the entire thing would tip. So although the back there is all quite solid, the front here needs anchoring somehow. So I've got a couple of large posts that I was going to put in. Not quite decided how I'm going to anchor them to the floor. I'm not sure if I'm just going to hammer them straight into the ground, or whether I'm going to dig a hole and fill it with concrete. But I do need to cut those down before I bring them up here. It's a little late in the day to start cutting those, so I won't be doing that this week. So I'm going to pick this up again next week when I've got the poles cut to size. Well, it's a few days later. I've got all the posts sorted, so I decided to dig holes and put concrete at the bottom because I thought that would be more stable. So that's all nice and solid now, so I can finally get around to putting this lot back and sorting this lot out. So yeah, let's start moving stuff back again. Well, I think that'll do for tonight because I'm starting to lose the light, but I'm really pleased with how this area is coming together, and I'm really impressed with the compost bin. So I know I've filled the first bay with the wood at the moment. Plan is tomorrow I'm going to have a bonfire, so I'll cut the last of that up and I'll burn that tomorrow. But that should mean I have 3 bays now, so I should hopefully be able to get this into some sort of system, because the last one had 2 and I was kind of struggling. So the idea is that I'd be filling that bay, I'd be having that bay rotting down, and then I'd be emptying that bay. So by the time you filled the first bay, the last bay should be empty, so you can start filling that bay, which means that bay would be rotting down and you'd be emptying this bay. So there's always one that you're emptying and one that you're filling and one that's just rotting down. Now obviously, because there is quite so much in the system, I am going to have to be emptying this into that as it rots down to kind of get everything into the cycle. But I reckon that'll do well, and because I haven't got any wood, it shouldn't rot. So I'm hoping this will last a lot longer. Now, the panels themselves, they are supposed to be decorative panels, so I'm not sure how good the metal is, but at least we'll know how the system works if I get on with it, or if I need to make any changes. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave it a like, make sure you're subscribed, and I shall see you next time. See you later. Found one at last. There we go. Slow worm. I knew I'd find one eventually.